This podcast is supported by the original organic bedding and bath brand, Koyuchi.
Koyuchi has spent 35 years pioneering quality organic textiles, long before the word organic became, trendy. But words matter to Koyuchi. Words like craftsmanship, longevity, and wellness. So what does the word wellness mean to Koyuchi? It means that all of our products are absolutely free from harsh chemicals and dangerous toxins that can seep into your skin. It means effortless style that looks as good as it feels with naturally breathable, pre-washed organic cotton. And what does all of that mean to you? Well, it means that you can sleep well in Koyuchi's crisp, cool, luxuriously soft sheets that are ethically made and made with you in mind. Live well, sleep well with Koyuchi. And now during our Memorial Day sale event, you can enjoy 20% off organic cotton sheets, towels, and everything else at Koyuchi.com. That's Koyuchi.com for 20% off from now until May 25th. Koyuchi.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
The Middle is supported by Journalism Funding Partners, a nonprofit organization striving to increase the sustainability of local journalism by building connections between donors and news organizations. More information on how you can support The Middle at listentothemiddle.com. Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, joined as always by our house DJ Tolliver. And Tolliver, that was a debate. I did not expect golf scores to come up, but
oh my God, you took the words right out of my mouth. My favorite part was comparing the golf swings because I didn't know that Trump, really knew Biden to swing like that. That was important to me.
Well, I have to say also, we haven't said anything yet, and the lines are already full. So I think people have something to say this hour. So one of the reasons this presidential debate is so important is that it has a huge audience, including people who don't normally pay attention to politics. And within that huge audience are Americans in the middle who will decide who wins the election in November, whether that's people in the geographic middle in states that are crucial like Michigan and Wisconsin, or people in the political middle who haven't made up their minds about which way they'll go this year. So this hour, we want to hear from you, our listeners. What did you think as you saw or heard the candidates? Did they connect with you? Did you learn anything new about their positions or their character? Did they help you make up your mind? Tolliver, can you give us the number?
Sure can. It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can write to us at listentothemiddle.com.
Before we introduce our panel, last week we asked about your thoughts on whether or not money is corrupting our politics. Here's what some of you had to say.
This is Claire from Madison, Wisconsin.
My name is Jim from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yes, hi, my name is Ruth. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
My name's Carrie Thatcher, and I'm calling from Santa Monica, California. Yes, money is destroying politics.
On the issue of campaign financing, the Supreme Court really screwed things up with Citizens United. That has really put the dirt in politics.
Yes, I do believe there is way too much money involved in politics, and it's putting a very long distance between those seeking election and the voting populace that can't afford that type of fundraising. It makes them wonder why sometimes they even should go out and vote.
I think transparency is essential, no matter which party I belong to.
Well, thanks to everyone who called in. So now to our topic for this hour, your reaction to the first debate between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. Let's meet our panel. Josh Barro is a journalist and host of the Very Serious podcast and newsletter. He's also the former host of the public radio show and podcast Left, Right, and Center. Josh, welcome to The Middle.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Doing well. And Zoe Clark is also with us, the political director at Michigan Public, in a state that could swing either way in this election. As we said, Zoe, great to have you here as well.
Hey, Jeremy. Hi, Josh.
So before we get to these calls, let me just hear from each of you. Josh, what stood out to you in this debate? A lot of people are fretting about what happened, but what did you think?
Oh, God. It was an absolute disaster for Joe Biden. I mean, the first 20 minutes, but, that was sort of what mattered. I mean, his key task for this debate was to come out and look like he's still up to the job that he has. And he failed at that task. And he was mumbling. He was at times incoherent. He seemed really, really old. He got somewhat better as the debate went on. I mean, I thought his performance at the State of the Union a few months ago was adequate, and adequate is good enough on this score. I think, a lot of voters are looking at this as, it's sort of a binary, like, is he good enough or not on this score question? And I think he passed that test a few months ago, but obviously a State of the Union is a scripted event. It's different from a debate, and he really did not bring it here. And I think if you're a voter who doesn't really feel great about either of these candidates and thinks Biden is too old and maybe not up to it, and who thinks that Trump is, too weird and lawless and, his administration was too chaotic, Trump did what he needed to do tonight and seemed more normal than usual. And I think basically got the message, that kind of voter, that he was trying to get out, and Biden just didn't do that at all.
A lot of people were saying after the State of the Union address, Biden's political opponents were saying they thought he was, jacked up on performance-enhancing drugs, some Adderall or something. I don't think anybody was saying that after this performance tonight. Zoe Clark, what about your thoughts about the debate?
Yeah, I mean, exactly to what Josh said. There was something that Joe Biden needed to do tonight to win over these swing voters, what we're all sort of calling the deciders, right? 6% of voters in 6 states, basically. And I think everything we're seeing after this debate is that he did not do that this evening. And I'll be really surprised, truthfully, if we see a second debate on September 10th.
Interesting. I will say there's one thing, Zoe, because this was the first presidential debate in history where both of the candidates have held the office of president, nobody was getting their first look at these candidates. How important do you think this was compared to other debates in the past?
Well, and that's exactly the issue of why folks are so unhappy right now. Like, they know these two presidents and former presidents, and they've seen them, and they are saying this is not good enough for us. And I think, if anything, it doubled or tripled down on that for a lot of voters tonight. I mean, you're joking at the beginning of the show about talking about golf scores, but I mean, in your life, Jeremy, in your life, Tolliver, Josh, have you ever witnessed what we just did in terms of like American citizenry and the things and the expectations that we have, that we want our leaders to talk about? And it was about golf scores? I mean, I think a lot of Americans are probably really heartbroken after what they just witnessed, no matter what side of the aisle you are, but about just sort of the representation that we have right now as voters in this democracy.
I mean,
let's get to the phones and Anne.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, I saw the debates in 2016 and 2020, so my, expectations for how stupid a presidential debate can be, I think, have been set for a couple of cycles. I'm not sure this one was worse. I'm very interested to see what the ratings were for this debate, because the first Trump-Hillary debate did something like 86 million. This is not going to be anywhere close to that. I mean, first of all, it's very early in the cycle, but this is like the least interesting presidential campaign of my lifetime. I had to watch this debate because it's my job. Like, one of my best friends had his birthday party tonight. And I said to him 2 weeks ago, I was like, that's during the presidential debate. And he kind of goes, oh, I didn't realize that. And he pauses and he's like, well, I don't really think that matters. And like, I don't think, except me who had a work obligation, I don't think anyone else cared. And so I'm interested to see how many people actually started watching this debate and how many people made it through the whole 90 minutes.
Well, we have some of them on the line right now. Ann is in Raleigh, North Carolina. Ann, go ahead. What did you think?
Oh, I'm so disappointed. I mean, I'm right there with everything you're saying. The only thing that really bothered me is there were several points where Trump was called out, this is false. And the this is false never got called out in the debate.
The moderators were very, very quiet throughout the debate.
Yeah, I have two sons, 32 and 25, and one of them is a trans boy, and he's terrified about what's happening legislatively to his rights, and I don't blame them for being just crushingly disillusioned. I feel like we've let them down.
Did it change your mind at all, Ann, about what you're going to do in this election, or was it just something you watched and you didn't like what you saw?
That's a hard question. I have long been a proponent of a viable third party, and I knew it would always be painful, but I didn't know we would have to get to this to potentially make that happen. And I'm
Ann, thank you.
in my lifetime.
Yeah, Ann, thank you very much. Zoe Clark, I wonder how many people are going to bring up the idea of a third party. Of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's polling at somewhere around 10% in a lot of the national polls and even the state polls, was not on the stage.
He was not on the stage, but you know where he is? He's on a ballot here in Michigan, right? And so when we were talking about those 6 states where the deciders are, and Michigan being one, he may not be on every single ballot in 50 states, but it's not all 50 states, because of the electoral college, as we've all discussed, that truthfully get, that vote. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be interesting the rest of this hour to hear about people talking about it. Now, I don't know that anybody watching, as we all have read and know about some of RFK Jr.'s stances, if that would have made anyone feel better about democracy or the country, having him on the stage and hearing some of the things that he stands for and says and believes. I don't know that would have made much of a difference. Yeah, it probably helped, in fact, not on the stage to have there seem to be some viability.
Let's go to Ed in Denver, Colorado. Ed, welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I watched the debate tonight, and nothing surprised me. We got rhetoric from both sides claiming they're the greatest. Both of them coming up with information that's not necessarily true about the other side. Pretty much what I expected. But I'm calling because I just want to say that these extreme politicians on both sides do not represent me. I am purple. I believe in a woman's right to choose. I also believe in Second Amendment rights. Those are two totally different opposing positions according to the two main parties. I don't believe that's the case. I think there's a lot of people who feel they agree with certain things that are red and other things that are blue. And these extreme politicians, whether it's local, state, or federal level, do not represent me or us as a people.
So what are you going to do, Ed? What are you going to do in November?
Well, I can't tell you that right now because I don't know. I am tired of voting against instead of for. I can't tell you how many presidential elections since I actually supported a candidate. And this is the worst of the worst. This time, in 2020, we did not have a Biden 4-year presidential history to look at. Now we have 2 4-year presidential histories, and we can kind of do a comparison. Mm-hmm. But I really think if a lot of people in this country voted third party, and took the 2 main candidates down multiple percentage points, then the Dems and the Republicans would wake up and go, we need middle of the road. We cannot keep pushing these extremists.
Yeah, we've got it, Ed. Thank you very much for that. Josh Barro, just your thoughts briefly.
I mean, historically, when there have been strong third-party presidential campaigns, it's actually been when the 2 major parties are perceived as being relatively close together. Like, in 1992, I don't think people were terrified of a Bill Clinton presidency or another term for George H. Bush. And you can get outsider candidates to basically say the 2 parties are the same. I'm offering something different. This is not that situation.
Yeah.
People feel
this
negative.
Is not. They're very far apart from each other. Exactly. Yeah. Stand by because the lines are full. We've got a lot more calls, Tolliver, coming in from all over the country right now. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, The Middle is a national call-in show. We're focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, and philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. This hour, we're asking for your reaction to the debate between President Biden and former President Trump. Tolliver, what is the number to call in?
It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also write to us at listentothemiddle.com or on social media.
I'm here with journalist and host of the very serious podcast, Josh Barro, and Zoe Clark, political director at Michigan Public. And let's get right back to the phones, and let's go to Adrian in Corona, California. Adrian, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
So I think my reaction to this debate has just been that I truly believe that Joe Biden should probably drop out. I was scared going in. I kind of had some predictions about this and why they might have been doing the debate so early, especially why the Biden team might have been pushing it for June. I think part of Joe Biden's campaign might realize that if they wanted to gauge the reaction to this in case they might consider dropping out. It was kind of an abysmal performance in my opinion. Donald Trump was putting up a lot of falsehoods that could have easily been refuted, and Joe Biden just wasn't taking those opportunities. There's also one other line of argument that I think the Democrats should start using, which is that with the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, they're getting up there and close to retirement age. If Donald Trump is elected for a second term, I truly believe that those two will probably end up retiring and giving him another 2 spots on the Supreme Court.
Adrian, thank you for that call. Zoe Clark, is there a chance of that happening? There are people saying that on social media as well, that they want Biden to step aside and see if the convention can come up with another candidate.
Right. I mean, we'd been hearing that for months and months and months, like even before the State of the Union address. And I think particularly because of the State of the Union address, and a lot of Democrats felt like he did what he needed to do. I think tonight changed that dynamic. I really do. And I think that there are conversations likely happening at a lot of different levels about what it looks like moving forward, particularly moving ahead into the convention. I mean, we have to realize also, because, as Josh was talking about earlier, that this is the earliest presidential debate in history. We're actually having this debate before either of the conventions, which means these are actually not the official candidates yet, right?
Josh, that's such a big question that I want to give you a chance to respond to it as well. Do you think that there's any chance that Biden decides that he's going to step off the ticket and let somebody else come in?
I mean, you have to get inside his head. Only he can make that decision. I mean, sometimes, I know the caller didn't say this, but sometimes people are like, they should replace him. There is no they. Biden's nominated. He has the delegates. Only he can decide to step aside. And so, I mean, all along, there's been polling for, Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump matchups, and her polling is even worse than Biden's. So that's been the biggest argument against him stepping aside, is that you probably get Kamala as the candidate. And what the surveys suggest is she would run even worse. Now, we'll see, first of all, did this debate move the needle in the polls? If there's poll movement afterward, I think those conversations within the party will get louder. I think sometimes voters don't react to the debates in the way that we would expect. I mean, John Fetterman had what seemed like a really disastrous debate not long after his stroke. He was running for Senate.
In the Senate race in Pennsylvania, right.
Yeah, the debates didn't seem to matter in the 2016 or 2020 elections. Donald Trump did all sorts of, really weird stuff in those debates, and that didn't seem to matter. So I'm interested to see how voters respond to this. I think there will be that pressure. But, either he can sort of hand off to Kamala, and there's all sorts of, she has her own baggage, or he can try to throw it into some sort of open convention. Ross Douthat wrote a column for the New York Times back in February saying Biden should decide, but he should wait until the start of the convention to do it, so that it's sort of ripping the Band-Aid off and Democrats have a 4-day process to vote on a new candidate. I mean, if he's considering something like that and we haven't seen any outward indications, I mean, we wouldn't actually know until the convention happens.
I can tell you there are more people right now reading the convention rules than were yesterday.
Right. By the way, I should say it has not been that many weeks since Donald Trump was convicted, and a lot of people were saying, are they going to replace him on the ticket on the Republican side? So a lot happens very quickly in politics. Let's go to Mason, who's in Joliet, Illinois. Mason, welcome to the middle. Go ahead with your thoughts about the debate.
All right. I think they both lost. Donald Trump's not answering any questions that don't involve money or anyone with skin darker than your average white guy. And Joe Biden's up there, and he looks just terrible. I'm talking in the group chat with my family, and I'm telling him, look, this guy looks completely lost when he's not on the mic. And then they get up there and they want to start talking about who's got the better golf swing and this and that. I'm not voting based on golf swing. I'm voting based on, whether or not I can retire in 40 years. I'm 23. There's bigger things that we're dealing with. There's 2 whole wars going on, and we're not even talking about how to stop it. Instead, we want to talk about, what kind of bombs we're sending over to Israel because some of them aren't effective in large areas.
So what are you going to do, Mason? Just briefly, what are you going to do as a result of how you feel about this?
Oh, I'm probably going to vote third party. I voted for the Greens last time around just to see if if they could get that 3% threshold. Yeah. I'm not huge on Jill Stein though, so I'll probably just write myself in or something.
Mason, thank you so much for calling in. Let's go to Eddie, who's in Rentham, Massachusetts. Hi, Eddie. Welcome to the middle. Your thoughts?
I just urge all undecided voters to check out Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, he is just absolutely amazing, and he's running as an independent, and 70% of this country identifies as an independent. It's the largest political party in our country. And I was completely disengaged with politics for a long time, and I found out about this guy a year ago. And I don't know how I didn't know about him before, but he's the most successful environmental lawyer on the planet. He saved the Hudson River. He made Monsanto pay $2 billion. He started the largest water protection agency on the planet called Riverkeepers. Now he's running as
but Eddie, on the question about the debate, so I get it. You like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but what about the debate? Did it change your thoughts, or were you already going to go for Robert F. Kennedy before the debate?
It just confirmed that we have the 2 weakest candidates to ever be running on major. It's time to end these 2 major parties, this 2-party duopoly.
Yeah. Eddie, thank you for that. That's interesting, by the way. These are. I'm just picking the calls off the list here, Josh and Zoe, and we've now had a number of people say that they're interested in third parties.
I mean, people like third parties in the abstract, and then they see the candidates and they tend to like them less. I mean, we're already, seeing a little bit of fading in Kennedy. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a crazy person. He thinks that Wi-Fi causes leaky brain, and there's a government 5G conspiracy for surveillance, and his main environmental accomplishment is forcing the closure of the Indian Point nuclear power plant on the Hudson River, which greatly increased carbon emissions here in New York State, because turns out when you turn off the nuclear plant, we have to burn all this natural gas. So he's awful. And I realize that I'm like some media establishment elitist or whatever, but I think as voters have contact with him, a lot of the early polling was the Kennedy name, and Democrats have figured out he's not substantively a Democrat and has actually moved quite far to the right on a lot of issues. So I'm not sure what I think it's conceivable that he actually hurts Trump in the end, even though the Biden people really like to call RFK Jr. a spoiler for Trump. But ultimately, I think they like to envision a candidate in their heads who agrees with them on everything and, really suave and smart, a good leader. And then, you see who's actually on these ballots, and it ends up being a lot less appealing to them. There's a reason that third-party candidates almost always fade in the stretch.
We did an entire show about third-party candidates. You can go check that out at listentothemiddle.com. Let's go to Layla in Atlanta, the site of the debate. Layla, I assume you couldn't have been in the room, but what did you think of the debate?
I'm like everyone else. I think they both were terrible, and they, like the previous caller said, it made me more prone to vote for Kennedy, which I never thought I would do in a swing state. I thought I would only vote for Biden to avoid Trump, but with what Biden's been doing in Israel and the red baiting he did in the debate tonight, implying that Russia would invade or not just implying, saying that Russia would invade other European countries, which nobody believes that sort of thing anymore. And it's just another excuse for militarism. And but there's this great quote on my Facebook feed. Ginny Hogan says, "Okay, if you don't live in the U.S., please turn the debate off. This is our private family humiliation, and we'd all prefer you not stare."
Wow. Interesting. It was interesting. I was flipping around through the TV channels because they all had to run CNN's coverage, and even the BBC had CNN on. So I guess there were people that were watching our family squabble. Thank you, Layla, for that call. I want to ask you, Zoe Clark, what did you think about the fact that there were all these differences in this debate from previous debates? Did it make a difference that there were commercial breaks, that there was no live audience, that the candidates' mics were muted when they weren't supposed to talk? What kind of a difference did that make?
Right. Okay. So I mean, what was so fascinating was, let's set this up, and the sort of the back and forth, this was what Biden, originally wanted. And everyone was like, how did he get everything that he wanted? That it's going to make Trump, just furious that he can't interrupt. And then the last few days was like, no, actually, this is going to make Trump look presidential because it's going to mute him and he can't do this. And so it was sort of all of this palace intrigue. I think almost it felt like more time had been spent the past few days leading up to sort of the debate format than actually policy and what they were going to say. And what I think we saw, especially if you were watching TV, was the split screen, right? And you saw Biden looking at points confused, not even sure exactly where to look. And we have to compare that with the fact that we know Trump is a showman, right? He lives and breathes TV. That is his shtick. That is part of what he does. Commercial breaks, I don't think that mattered that much. I don't think that changes the dynamic necessarily for voters. It probably let people go pour another glass of wine or get another beer or take another edible. I don't know, just to get through the next half an hour or wherever they were at. I think too much time was spent about the format leading up and not enough about substance.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Jackie in Tallahassee, Florida. Jackie, what do you think?
So I'm driving. I did not see, but I heard. And I was so disappointed and just kind of let down, oh my gosh, I really needed our president to be presidential. I heard earlier that he might have been sick. But just wanting him to be like on point, basically State of the Union, like you guys have said earlier. But I'm dealing with just Governor DeSantis. I'm in Tallahassee, Florida, so Florida man is my governor. And having another Trump presidency would be probably our last presidency. And on top of it, I'm a black woman, and Trump has nothing for the black community, nothing for black women. I think it's asinine that he thinks because he has a mugshot that he can now resonate with me. Doesn't resonate with me. Doesn't resonate with the people that I know. So these are the type of things that I really wanted to punch home, especially my reproductive rights. I'm actually a mom of 10, but if I got pregnant again, it could kill me. And
so, Jackie, I wonder though, Jackie, if I may, it sounds like you're going to vote for Biden no matter what anyway. So, if that's the case, does something like this make you want to vote even more because you're worried now that Trump is going to win because of this debate performance?
Most definitely. It also makes me want to participate in social action things because we cannot have a third party. I hear these people saying third party. A third party is a vote for Trump. Period. And it's
Jackie, thank you for that. Let me take it to Josh Barro here. Josh, I wonder about that. Is this a motivating factor for Democrats because now they don't think that Biden's just going to? I mean, it was close anyway, but now they definitely don't think that Biden would just walk away with this election, and they don't have to show up.
Base voters, might feel more motivated, but what makes the base is it always turns out and votes. And, if they're more activated, that doesn't mean that their vote counts more. What you're seeing in the polling for Biden is that he's holding his support pretty well among people who are very politically engaged. People who voted for Biden in 2020 and then went and voted in the midterm, voted in a primary. He's holding on to most of those people. Where he has a lot of trouble is people who voted in 2020 and haven't voted since, and even worse with people who didn't even vote in 2020. Now, obviously, fewer of those people are going to turn out and vote this time, but a substantial number of them will. And he's lost a lot of support among those groups, and particularly where the president has lost ground with black and Hispanic voters, it is essentially entirely with less politically engaged black and Hispanic voters. So you can go into black communities and you can see, the very well, organized, people who are very politically active, and they're still very much with Biden. And you can say, well, see, this looks the same. And in the polling, that also looks the same. The people that we're looking at who are falling away in the Democratic Party coalition are people who are less loud politically, who don't follow politics as much, don't talk about it as much. And so it's a little bit harder to see, exactly where they are. The Biden campaign thinks a lot of those people are going to come home in the end once they actually start paying attention in the fall. There's really no way to prove or disprove that until we actually have the election.
Tolliver, we're also getting some comments in online at listentothemiddle.com. What are people saying?
Yeah, a ton of them. Fred from Iowa City says, I hate Trump, and he's been saying lots of nonsense, but I think Biden got up on the wrong side of the coffin. Burn.
Man, wow.
I am sick of these extreme politicians, red and blue, being our only options. I am not red or blue. I'm purple. Ben in Minneapolis says, I think we're in trouble. The political parties are completely unaligned with the needs of daily life of Americans, and the media loves the disaster that the debate was. Normal people will suffer because of this. Yeah.
All right. You can reach out to us at listentothemiddle.com. Let me sneak one more call in before a break. Jake is in Conway, Arkansas. Jake, what did you think of the debate?
Hey, so I just think it's really disheartening that a bunch of the candidates that we have in our government, and especially these presidential candidates, are more interested in going after each other and attacking each other rather than answering the questions honestly and completely. And I think it just makes it really disheartening for everyone else and doesn't really motivate people to get out and talk about these ideas productively.
Jake, thank you. Josh Barro, that brings up the question of the moderators who didn't really do very much. Honestly, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, they didn't do any pushback. They didn't do any fact checking of any kind, and often just said thank you at the end of each of the answers. What did you think of the moderators? And was that the role that they should have played what they did?
The primary responsibility in a debate, especially a two-candidate debate, for holding one candidate accountable lies with the other candidate. They have opportunities to respond to each other. And I think, the Joe Biden that we saw 12 years ago in a debate with Paul Ryan, I think would have been a lot more nimble and been a lot more effective in doing that and calling out Donald Trump when he lied or when he misrepresented his own record or Joe Biden's record. And so, there's Democrats have spent a lot of time over the last 8 years complaining about the way in which Donald Trump is addressed on television. And there's been this sort of actually funny whiplash where first it was they were putting him on TV too much. And then the last year it's been like, no, they're not putting him on TV enough. People have forgotten how crazy you have to do more. Ultimately, CNN is not supposed to be responsible for saving your campaign.
All right, well, stand by because there's a lot more to come, Tolliver.
Yeah, the lines are flooded, man. Hope we don't crash the system. Wow.
We'll be right back with more of The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come round here with my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. We're asking you this hour for your thoughts on the presidential debate between President Biden and former President Trump. You can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also reach out to us at listentothemiddle.com. I'm joined by Michigan Public Political Director Zoe Clark and Josh Barro, host of the Very Serious podcast. And let's go right back to the phones. And Jennifer, who's in Minneapolis. Jennifer, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate you having me. I just want to start off with saying I'm a huge proponent of the media and public radio. I've been a member of Minnesota Public Radio for over 20 years. But then I kind of want to segue into the fact that I'm a little disappointed that the media continues to present this as a false equivalency. These two candidates are not equal. One lies all of the time. Former President Trump in this debate I don't think he told one thing that was the truth. And while President Biden maybe had more difficulty delivering his message, he told things that were the facts, and he actually touted accomplishments, of his presidency that actually help the people of this country.
Jennifer, thank you for that. Zoe Clark, your thoughts on that? Because that's what a lot of people are saying right now is that, Trump was able to get away with saying a lot of things that were not true.
And he did. Like, let's just note that too. The fact checkers are going to be working for days and days and days on the number of lies that there were. But this is the issue of this debate, that this is a referendum, that this was about Biden showing up right? And the fact is, he didn't in the way that I think a lot of voters wanted or were hoping for. The campaign certainly was. And because of that, we're now talking about his performance more than about the many, many lies. And I get the concerns about false equivalency. There are going to be people who, continue to say convicted felon that's absolutely true. But the fact is, those are knowns about this president, and yet there are voters that are still supporting him. And the sort of unknown was about how Biden's performance tonight was going to be for some voters. And I think what we're going to see, to Josh's point, we got to wait and see some focus groups, but was disappointment.
Well, let's continue our focus group right now with Alex in Martell, Nebraska. Hi, Alex. Welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Jeremy. Shout out to Urbana, Illinois. That's where I grew up, little school and all that. But I farm
My
and ranch
hometown.
in
All right.
Nebraska now. I farm and ranch in Nebraska now. I just feel like we get the leaders that we deserve, and it is a sad state of affairs that, and it reflects the current state of our political discourse, that these two guys at the top can't even have a reasonable conversation about the many difficult, complicated problems that we face. And a lot of callers have been saying it, but I echo that sentiment that it's just sad that this is what we have in front of us. I won't vote for either one of these guys in the fall. I live in a red state. Even if I voted for Biden, it wouldn't matter. So I do have that benefit that I can kind of pick for whoever I want to vote, and that's what I'll be doing. It won't be one of these guys.
All right. Alex, thank you so much for that call. And let me get to Mark, who's in Chicago. Mark, welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Long-time listener. I was saying earlier when I called in and spoke with the gentleman who took my phone call, I don't think anyone in my family expected to end up on a phone call after this debate tonight, and that's exactly what happened. My family is all from the Midwest. I'm from Chicago, family in Minnesota, North Dakota, and, spanning the political spectrum, mostly centered right to center left. And I think what's interesting was the centrists in the family were the most concerned. My father actually started to talk about how we need to start calling our senators about this. And I think that's, for me being on the left, I think that's where a lot of the sentiment is right now that I'm just seeing online amongst my friend group. Just the fact that
calling your senators to get them to replace Biden on the ticket or something?
Well, I think, yes. I think there's just like a slow, I think Biden is an old man, not just old, but I meant a statesman from the Senate. And I think the Senate is the only group that may be able to discreetly convince him to step down. But I do think it's a precarious situation. And I was just shocked by the performance and saddened by it, honestly.
Yeah. Mark, thank you for that. Josh Barro, one thing that I'm noticing is, I can't tell whether any of these people were undecided before and then they made a choice based on this debate, or they kind of went in with this view and kept with it. But what do you think? Are there a lot of undecided people out there in this country right now?
Yeah. You can see that in the polls. I don't know how many of them were watching this debate. The thing is, undecided voters, by definition, tend to be less ideological. On average, they are less politically engaged. They're not the sort of people who sit down on a Thursday night in June to watch a presidential debate, especially this presidential debate, which was so grim for all the reasons we've discussed. And also, this is such a weird campaign in part because both of these people have been president. And so I think a lot of voters, not unreasonably, feel like they know what they're getting with these two candidates, which is maybe why the content of the answers doesn't even matter as much as it would in a normal presidential debate. And there are obviously policy issues to discuss. Trump will face a very different economy than he did last time. If he's president, same policies would have different consequences, that sort of thing. But ultimately, I don't, for a lot of voters, I think there's not a lot of information for them to gain. They just don't like the choice in front of them and don't want to make it.
Yeah, to the point though,
Zoe?
of folks not necessarily tuning in tonight to watch the debate. Yes, I get that. But the difference now, it feels to me, is phones. Everybody tomorrow is going to be watching 8 to 12 seconds of different bites, whether it be on Insta, whether it be on TikTok, whether, like this debate is going to continue to live for days and days and days and days. And again, going back to this whole idea of the hope of the Biden, campaign was to do this debate early so that there would be plenty of time for them to change the narrative. It didn't do that. Like, it just didn't do that. So I get like the terms of the debate, people not watching, but it doesn't change this narrative for voters.
But here's what I wonder about that. Because, the debate was a new and shocking thing for people who are paying a lot of attention. Another 10-second clip of Joe Biden sounding incoherent that bounces around to voters who don't pay a lot of attention, that's not new at all. There's been lots of clips like that going around for months. So if that's the mechanism through which the debate matters, I wonder about the extent to which it really matters.
Agreed. But I think what's different this time is I think you actually have some Democrats publicly after this performance actually coming out sort of like on the record. Like even, I guess, Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris came out and just said like, yeah, it started off slow or weak. I want to be careful, read the quote. But like when you've got the VP who can't like that's your surrogate, yo. Like that's a problem. And that's to me what's changed the dynamic a little bit right now that hasn't previously in the previous months.
Okay, let's go to the phones again. And by the way, I am told that we already have over 100 voicemails, the people that haven't been able to get through. So thank you for calling and leave those voicemails for us. But if you can make it through, and if you thought, Biden did well, we want to hear from you. If you thought Trump did well, we want to hear from you. Let's go to Quadre in Tampa, Florida. Quadre, welcome to the middle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought the debate sucked. My only question, the only question I had with it, man, was like I was listening. I'm a truck driver, so I was in the wait. I was on my last load listening to it, and the only question that came out after the debate, most of it, was, "Is this what we have to choose from? Are these two men, old, black, white, Spanish, German, whatever nationality in the world, are these two old guys to lead us into the new world?"
Maybe Quadre went under a bridge or something there, but thank you for that call. I mean, very interesting. And by the way, think about the amount of people driving across this country on the highways, tuning in and listening to this debate that may not pay attention to politics. Zoe.
And this is exactly it. Although, I have to say, like, I watched it. Shouldn't necessarily maybe admit that because, public radio here. But I watched it. It goes back to, the Nixon, Kennedy. Was it different by just listening versus watching it on television? I mean, one of the things now that we're hearing the campaign of Biden's backtrack is like, well, he had a cold and that's where the raspy voice was. I just don't think there was that much of a difference between TV and radio in a way that we can talk about sort of the 1960s.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Tom, who's in Honolulu, Hawaii. Tom, welcome to the middle. What did you think of the debate?
Aloha. And
Aloha.
Mahalo for taking my call. I was disappointed in both of the orators tonight. I think, and I'm going to say something nice about Donald Trump, even though I don't like him. The thing I'm going to say that's positive and nice about him, and I mean this sincerely, is that he was a much better president than George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. And the reason I say that is because it's a documented fact that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson thought that it was okay while they were president to own slaves. And I don't think Donald Trump ever owned any slaves, and I'm sure he didn't get a 15-year-old slave girl pregnant like Thomas Jefferson did. And the
so are you going to vote for Trump, Tom?
Pardon me?
Are you going to vote for Trump then?
No, I'm gonna vote for the best governor that Minnesota ever had, Jesse Ventura. I'm going to write him in.
Wow.
And the other thing that I was going to say regarding Trump that is slightly negative is I really would like it if tomorrow I found out that every single Trump supporter became an athletic supporter.
Okay. Tom, thank you for that call. Let's get to Philip in Big Lake, Minnesota. Philip, go ahead with your thoughts about the debate.
Hey guys, Big Lake, Minnesota. Was scrolling through the radio. I had a baseball game for my son tonight, so I actually missed most of the debate, but I saw the portions of it, and just looking for a couple answers here. What are the actual crimes against Trump?
What are the crimes against Trump? What do you mean by that? Like, what are the crimes he was convicted of?
The convicted felon portion. Yeah. What exactly is he convicted of?
Yeah. That was the New York case. Josh Barro, you're in New York. I'll let you handle the brief details of that.
34 counts of felony falsification of business records. It's a New York state law. The payment that was made to Stormy Daniels to not talk about the alleged sexual encounter that they had was falsely recorded as legal payments to Michael Cohen. That's a misdemeanor in New York, but it's a felony if it is done to further an underlying crime. And prosecutors had a few theories of what those crimes were, and the jury was persuaded. And so for each of those false entries in a ledger or a check or that sort of thing, he was convicted of a felony. But it was ultimately about the Stormy Daniels hush payment.
This is the great thing about live radio is that even when I throw something like that to Josh Barro and he had no preparation for that at all, he gave us a perfect answer. So thank you for that. Tolliver, what's coming in online?
We got someone from Lansing, Michigan saying, this debate was horrifying. Couldn't have gone worse for Biden. I'm a staunch Dem, but OMG. And that OMG was in all caps. Dear middle people, I know this is a weird concept for the U.S., yet what is the problem of a coalition with the often called and maybe needed third party? Do it. Thanks for considering. Bjorn, a former European. And then we got Stu in Michigan saying, I possibly foolishly expected fact-checking and pushback from the moderators. Instead, all I saw and heard was the same misinformation that is presented at a Trump rally. Spicy.
Let's go to Joe next to my hometown in Champaign, Illinois. Joe, go ahead. Welcome to the middle.
Thank you for letting me get my 2 cents in. I'm an immigrant. I come originally from Nigeria. Yes, if these are the 2 men that we have, it's unfortunate. However, we're not just voting for the man, we're voting for the policies. And the policies of one indicate someone who cares about the nation. And the policies of the other is someone who is self-obsessed and self-absorbed. So let's not just think about the individuals who are at the helm of each party. Let's talk about what they stand for, who they are, what their parties stand for, what they want to do. The Republican Party has not had a platform for the last 8 years. The Democratic Party still has a platform that it wants to uphold. We have quite a few things that will be really damaged in this democracy if we, unfortunately, allow Trump to have another term in office.
Joe, thank you. Yeah, Joe, thank you. Let me take that to Zoe Clark because that is a very good point. The policies of these 2 men could not be more different in many ways from each other. And I don't know that leaving that debate, you really got any more of a sense about what the policy differences were because we're so focused on how one performed, how the other performed, whether they were telling the truth, not telling the truth, what the moderators were doing.
Right.
Zoe.
And this again goes back to what we continue to say is that it was sort of this referendum on the man rather than necessarily the policy proposals, which actually, when you dig into it, like, again, a majority of American voters are basically with where Joe Biden is vis-a-vis abortion, right? And so some of these policy issues, but they get tamped down. And instead, what rises to the top is that guttural feeling that undecided voters have. And in some respects, it's a shame that we're not spending more time talking about the policy proposals from each of these. And to our point that we've also talked about, like, what's very different with this race is, like, we've seen 4 years now with both of these presidents. And so it's not just what they want to do, it's what they did. And that's at some point what voters are going to have to dig into and decide, right? Is like looking at those policy, there's going to be plenty of people who go, I can't vote for Joe Biden, but I'm going to because of the policy or because of the party, because of what I believe in.
Josh, I'll just give you the last word because we've actually come to the end of the hour. Did anything surprise you here? I mean, very, very negative reaction from the callers across the board.
That does not surprise me in the least. The other thing that didn't surprise me is it's not clear. I guess we had one caller who said that they had decided to vote for a third-party candidate because of this, but we didn't have a lot of people actually indicating that the debate had changed their intentions. You saw a lot of people disappointed about, the way that a candidate they preferred had performed, which I think, I mean, that's actually not surprising to me. I think, usually debates don't change the way that people vote. But I didn't, I certainly didn't expect anyone to be calling in inspired and enthused about this debate.
Well, if you do still want to have your voice heard, you can leave us a message at 844-4MIDDLE or go to listentothemiddle.com. I want to thank my guests for this hour, Michigan Public Political Director Zoe Clark and the creator and host of the Very Serious Podcast, Josh Barro. Wonderful to have you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And The Middle is brought to you by Long Nook Media, distributed by Illinois Public Media in Urbana, Illinois, and produced by Joanne Jennings, Harrison Patino, Danny Alexander, and John Barth. And, of course, Tolliver has been with us at this very late hour. Thanks to all of our staff for being here at this late hour for this special post-debate edition of The Middle. Our intern is Annika Deschler. Our technical director is Jason Croft. Our theme music was composed by Andrew Haig. And we want to thank Nashville Public Radio, iHeartMedia, and the more than 410 public radio stations that are making it possible for people across the country to listen to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. I'll talk to you next week.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I actually drop better when I'm high. It heightens my senses, calms me down. If anything, I'm more careful. Honestly, it just helps me focus.
That's probably what the driver who killed a 4-year-old told himself. And now he's in prison. You see, no matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.